Rock and roll, Mike Piazza, video breakdown for the Lab BCS podcast. So if we look, we'll
The
start
Lab
here.
Epstein hitting podcast.
The Lab Epstein hitting, because
Right,
that's me, Epstein hitting.
right.
So if you see here, you can really see how he pulls his hands up and back as he's striding forward. His hands really never come to a complete stop, but you can see where I'm stopping it here. Look at his front hip. Look how much his front hip opens, and look at where it says Piazza on the back of his jersey. So I'm drawing a couple arrows, one to his front hip, one to the Piazza, and then watch how much the hip moves compared to the torso. Okay, that's really for a guy that never really thought about, probably driving his legs or getting into his legs. If you want to compare that to Ted Williams, Mr. Jim, then I think you're pretty much right on there. That's a very similar move. Okay. Then from here, I'm going to draw a posture line. When he starts to rotate, that just kind of goes right down, parallel to his upper body or his spine. Okay. And as he rotates to contact, you can see how his spine comes up a little bit, right? Probably because that pitch is high. Okay. Um, or the camera's moving. I guess the camera's moving. That's going to really mess us up. So, but you can see his posture does change. It shouldn't change in and out like that. So now his posture looks like this. It's more straight up. Okay. So we'll look for that on other swings. But that's something I see with young kids is they don't hold that posture, meaning their head lifts through the swing because their hips move towards the plate. Okay. So they kind of move towards the plate instead of staying in place. Kind of hard to see here with this because the camera is zooming out as we're hitting it. But what I love here is his lead arm where he's throwing. It's almost like he's throwing a frisbee with his left arm. He's getting the knob way out in front to hit this ball to right field. And notice where he extends. We've talked about that in previous episodes. Do you want to have good opposite field power? Well, you can't rotate off the ball. You have to decelerate your hips. How do you decelerate your hips? Well, your chest then has to decelerate. How do you decelerate your chest? Well, your arms have to accelerate a little bit earlier. So by him pulling the knob forward, which in my opinion is a crucial and very important move that people say you don't want to do, pulling your hands, getting the knob out in front. Notice how the knob is kind of pointing towards right center in this position. So, Jim, if you take the video to where the ball just shows up on the screen, okay, and his bat's essentially in the approach position, the lag position, that knob is not facing the pitcher. It's like facing the second baseman. Okay, so what happens is now his chest is back. It's what Bregman does so well. He doesn't over rotate. His chest is back. Now, when he releases that barrel and extends, he's extending to the right center field gap where he hit this pitch. That's how we cover pitches middle away. Okay, we have to use our hands more on pitches middle away. On pitches middle in, you're not going to see that knob face the second baseman as much because he's got to rotate his body more, so it's got to face more to the pull side. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. The other thing that's very good here is, let's see how consistent his extension is. If we draw a line on the bat, on this, his vertical bat angles, look at that, my goodness, less than 20 degrees. Okay, a lot of times that's frowned upon. Sorry, Hall of Famer, you only hit 426 home runs with that. And then we look at, 2 frames later, and it's, still within, he's only like 4 degrees less than that. Okay. So he didn't flip his wrist and he didn't dump his barrel too much. Okay. Which is very good. Meaning the closer those lines match up, the better our extension is without flipping our wrists too much. Okay, so now we'll go to a side view and we'll see this is a different swing. This is a swing that he pulls. He gets tied up a little bit more. Okay, but if you watch his stride, let's see if I can get it. I mean, he just kind of steps forward. There's his hand pump. He just kind of pumps his hands up and then he throws them through. We get to his short approach position, right? Pretty good, meaning his elbow's inside his hands a little bit. His bat is next to his shoulder. He could be shorter to the ball. If you look at somebody like Vlad's probably there with the bat. Okay, but then he pulls his hands in a little bit more at the end. And if you look at his attack angle, how much he's swinging up, It's probably, there's a 12-degree line. Yeah, pretty close to that, 10 to 12 degrees. Okay. And he launches it. So even though he hit it 10 to 12 degrees, here's the blur of the ball. It's up here. Okay. He launched it at 32 degrees. Okay. So remember, if we were looking more at like Castellanos right now, instead of 12 degrees by his front foot, Castellanos, I'm going to clear these off just because we were talking about him today. Again, we're talking about it during the World Series. He's probably up here closer to 20 degrees. So if I draw that line, you can see how if he's just a little bit early and hits it here, he's going to top it, right? He's going to hit a pull side ground ball. If he hits it a little bit further back, he'll probably be good. But if he hits it, meaning his timing window is probably only about this big between those two circles, where Piazza's looking at a timing window of probably from there to there. Oh no, back here. It's like his back thigh he probably gets on plane, probably from there to there. Okay, so that's how you hit over 300. Okay, but again, that's a guy that, used to think about swinging down. Is he swinging down? No, he's still swinging up 12 degrees. So check out this pitch, which is, somewhat down. So now we're at the next one where he's got a black jersey on. Okay, you can see how far away from the plate he stood. My goodness. Can you edit that out, please? Okay, so we're gonna talk about how far. Good God, I wanted to say stands, and then does he have high tops on? That's awesome too. Okay, but if we look, he's pretty far away from the plate, so he's gonna have to get his hands out a little bit more. Okay, you can still see that knob where he really slides the knob out in front, right there, with his left arm. But this pitch, thigh high. So most of the time, thigh high, a good vertical bat number would be in the 30s, 32 to 35, 36. His is still in the 20s on that pitch. So remember when I talked about on lower pitches, he's still able to keep his vertical bat angle from dropping too much? That's pretty impressive. You have to have very strong hands and forearms to do that. But in doing so, if you can be in the 20s, you're going to consistently get more backspin than side spin. That's essentially what we're doing. If you have the bat like that, now if your hands are up higher and then you drop the bat in like this at 35 degrees, then you'll tend to have a little bit more side spin and hook spin if we're a little bit early or a little bit late. But if you're closer to that 25 range where he is, if he's a little early or a little bit late, that side spin will be minimized. So again, he hits this ball. Look at his barrel after contact. So there's 25 degrees. We drew it. His next one, he's at 25 right after contact. That's how you hit through the ball. Good extension. You can see his power V is kind of low on this. I don't think we have a side angle, but notice where his extension point is here. It's like right back at the pitcher. He's not an over rotator. Okay. He had a little bit of a scissor move, didn't he? With his back foot.
Yeah, he did.
He did. Was he trying to do that? No, there was no scissoring back then. It's just he had a closed stance, right? He stepped closed. Then he tried to get his back knee to his front knee, and in doing so, that foot will go that way. Okay? But typically, guys will only scissor on pitches that are far away from him. Well, he was off the plate here, so it happened. Even though he pulled it, he kind of came across his body a little bit more. So again, that move is not a bad move. You just have to be careful on if guys do it, it's great. If it's taught, we got to be careful. So look at this next one where he's in an all-white uniform. This is older Piazza. Look how far away from the plate he is. I don't even know how he reaches this pitch. It's right down the middle, and well, I guess not. It's outside. But look at point of contact. His hands aren't even near his body. Like, he has reached so much to get to this pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, his hands are, look at the umpire, talk about being exposed. Okay, like his hands are here, way outside of his body. Again, this pitch is down. This pitch is right above the knees, okay, above the front knee. Let's go another vertical bat angle. This should be in the deep 30s. Usually with vertical bat angle, he's still at 23 degrees. I mean, you just have to have your arms that far away from your body. You have to be so strong with your hand. And if you look at him, he's not, I mean, he was big and strong, but not like guys today. He's not built like guys today. So he had such great hands. Um, Kind of a throwback, definitely a throwback guy. So anyway, I think we've gone through all these look the same, but that was the one thing that I was very um, impressed with was the control he had with his vertical bat angle. Okay, there's one here towards the end. This pitch is at the bottom of the knees. Let's see what it is. So bottom of the knees, usually what I'll see with players is they'll be at 40 degrees, 40 something. He's at 36 at the bottom. So his range is from what, 18 to 36, which is pretty darn impressive. Okay, so he was a guy that had great bat to ball skills. He was a hand dominant guy that he used his hands. He felt whether he used his body too, but he was a guy that thought about using his hands. If you hear his quotes, he wasn't like, "Oh, I'm trying to turn the barrel," or "I'm trying to rotate fast," or that. He's like, "No, I'm just trying to kind of throw my hands at the ball and find a barrel," and that worked for him. It doesn't mean it works for everybody, but for him, it definitely does. So pretty cool look at one of the greatest hitters and the greatest offensive catcher in Major League history.